autism, and ADHD combined.
I went through school knowing that I was different, but not knowing why I was different.
I took 5 milligrams. Instantly, I was feeling stuff. You take away the ADHD, and the autism takes over.
And you actually broke down crying.
I just felt like so normal.
It felt almost impossible, like I was hitting a brick wall.
If that means quitting my job, I'll do it.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. My name's T.
And I'm Kay.
And we are T&Kay The Spectrum Way. So today's topic, we're going to talk a little bit about ADHD and different types of our experience going through medication and kind of the pros and the cons and how we started off with ADHD and where we're kind of at now.
So I will start off and I will talk about my diagnosis. So in July, I got diagnosed and I had autism and I had ADHD combined. Now, understand that I had no idea what really any of that was, or I had no clue. So that was exciting and also terrifying, but one of the things that it said on my diagnosis was that my processing speed was so bad that it was impaired, and that it was 1% of people my age that experienced that. So because of that, I thought, you know what, if this is actually impairing me so much to this extent, maybe medication is the way to go. And I'm like, I could always try it and see. Now there's always been this stigma with ADHD meds, and I fell into that stigma where I'm like, I don't want to rely on a medication for the rest of my life. I want to be able to just do this myself. But I tried it. Okay. So, going into it, trying it, I took it, and I can tell you what medication I'm on if anyone is curious, later on. But I only took 5 milligrams. They started me off. They were usually we start people on 10 milligrams, but with you, because you're so sensitive to medication, thank you, autism, because you're so sensitive to medication, we're going to start you on 5 milligrams. And I was like, okay. Thank goodness they did, because I took 5 milligrams of this, and instantly I was feeling stuff. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what happened the first day I took the 5 milligrams. So the very first thing that I noticed was that I no longer wanted to procrastinate at all. My dog, Dubupsh, is a little bit overweight, or she was. She's not anymore, right?
No, she's good now.
She's a good girl. But she was a little bit overweight. And there was this whole thing where I was like, oh, I really got to go weigh her. I got to bring her into the vet to weigh her. And my vet is a 20-minute drive away. And I was just like, yeah, I really want to go weigh my dog. And that was it. I was doing it. I was going and I was getting it done. And usually... It was even funnier because I wanted to walk, and I've never wanted to exercise or walk or do any of that stuff. It is not in me. But it just gave me the energy. It gave me that motivation. And it was usually it takes so much time for me to do anything. As an example, if I say, oh, I want to go for a walk, or if he is hey, do you want to go for a walk? I have 20 things in my head, 20 steps in my head before I can get out the door for a walk. And that sounds exhausting. So I just go, no. But as an example, in my head, I think, okay, a walk. That means I have to go and get dressed. That means I have to go and brush my hair. If I brush my hair, I'm going to realize it's super greasy. I can't handle that. I'm going to have go shower. Well, that's a whole nother process that I'm not interested in doing, where I'm going to be hot and then I'm going to be cold, and then I'm going to have to sit in my towel on the bed for an hour and like regulate before picking out clothes because I won't know what to wear. And by the time that's all done, it's probably going to be like another 2 hours before I'm ready to go for a walk. So I just end up, usually the shorthand is being like, no, I don't want to go for a walk. Anyway, my idea to go for a walk, went for the walk, and on the walk, I noticed a difference. I noticed that I didn't just walk and get there and be like, how did I get here? Because that's usually what happens. I actually walked and I noticed things around me. I.e., I noticed like trees, I noticed the wind, I noticed the sounds, I noticed birds, I noticed wildlife. I just noticed things that I've never noticed before. And I actually really appreciated nature. And I was like, this is weird. Like, I've never appreciated nature before. So that was pretty crazy. But then I was texting my girlfriend, my best friend, and she's like, well, maybe it's the placebo effect. I don't think it works that fast. And I was like, I don't know. Now I'm second guessing myself, being like, well, is it the placebo? I'm like, no, like, I really feel like energetic. I really feel like this, like, it just felt really good. And we decided to test it. And I don't know if you guys notice or have this problem if you are autistic and have ADHD, but I have a problem with anime. And you can talk about that.
One of the things, I'm an avid like anime watcher. I love watching anime, and one of the things that was always very difficult for you to do was to watch anime and watch the images and then also read the subtitles at the same time. And it was like something that like you've never been able to do. I remember we were sitting down, we were watching Attack on Titan, and the amount of times that we had to like stop, go back, play it again so that you could read the subtitles and like process.
I was so frustrated.
Yeah, process reading and the visual at the same time.
And it's something that I've always wanted to like do with him, but I haven't been able to get into it because I can't read subtitles. And the only reason why I suffered through Attack on the Titan with subtitles is because we had watched all of it in English, and then it got to the part that's not put in English yet.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah, the last episode wasn't released in English. It was only released in Japanese. And
I really want to watch it because I was like very much enjoying the show. So I was like, oh man, okay, here we go. Then he's like, well, let's just test this because it's processing speed, right? So we were thinking like, if, I can read it, then I'm good. But what I always found before was when I read the subtitles, one, I couldn't keep up with the subtitles. They were going way too fast. And two, I couldn't focus on the picture as well. Like, so I'd be like, it would be one or the other. I couldn't focus on both. It was like, no matter what, couldn't do it. So we tried it.
Yeah, we tried it. And it was, I watched you on the couch, and you started to watch it, and you're like, oh my god, I can read it and I can follow along. And you actually broke down crying on the couch because it was so impactful to you at the time, being like, I've never been able to do this. Like, we've tried so many times and it's never worked. And you just had like a full like cry, like a euphoric cry.
It's true though, because like I've just I don't want to cry now, but I just felt like so normal. And I was like, this is what I've been missing out on? Like, are you joking? Like, this is how people feel usually? Like, this is what people are just able to do? Like, I always wondered how people did it. And I just remember being able to read the subtitles and look at the picture and still have time to, like, wait for the next picture. And I was like, how could I not do this before? It's so simple. I'm like, how? Makes no sense. And yeah, so that is basically I call it the aha moment. And lots of people say they don't experience an aha moment, but I did. And that was it. So I was really excited about that. Mm-hmm. So he went to work, right? Mm-hmm. And what happened when he went to work, same day, is I crashed. And not only did I crash, all of a sudden, everything around me got really loud. And, like, just really, like, it was like everything was heightened. And I then realized that, and this is, like, the analogy that I like to make. I then realized that this is my ADHD. This is my autism, right? Take away, so right now, they fight each other. It's kind of like, they fight each other, okay? And so that means that if, like, my autism over here is like, oh my gosh, like, these clothes, they're so restricting, like, it hurts, like, I hate feeling this way. And then I'm like, ooh, but I've really got to focus on this right now. Like, ADHD helps with that. But you take away the ADHD and the autism takes over. That's what I have experienced anyway. I'm not saying it's like this for everyone, but what I've personally experienced is the autism takes over. And then it's like, oh, you are really autistic. Like, you're noticing sounds that you've never noticed before, or maybe like just more overstimulation, all this stuff. And oh my gosh, the worst one was bras. Wow, why did I...
No idea.
What I noticed, though, was bras. Like, wearing bras, I was like, ugh, I'm uncomfortable. Get it off me. Anyway, didn't last that long, though, the side effects of that. Mm-hmm. So, understand that I have suspected my honey bunny of being ADHD, like, pretty much our whole life. I had no idea that I was ADHD. Because I remember things and stuff like that. Like, I'm pretty organized. So I was like, I was like, oh, okay, like, I think you have ADHD.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the kind of the initial thought was like, maybe you do too. So, you know, I kind of took some of those online tests before, and like it came back pretty positive that I had ADHD.
Yeah. Well, and before I had like diagnosed myself, I was doing so many tests all the time on the internet. I'm like, because if I'm going to pay this amount of money, like, I better be certain that I have it. And so I was doing all the tests online, and it wasn't ADHD tests, but I was doing like other ones and stuff like that.
You're doing autism tests and other things to try and figure out what was going on. But yeah, you kind of tipped me off that like I might have ADHD. I took a bunch and I was like, yeah, you know what? These are coming up pretty positive that like I do. So I actually went to the adult ADHD center, and I got fully diagnosed. They basically like, you know, run you through a whole bunch of like tests online. You do like an interview, and my kind of ADHD is slightly different from the one that you have. I'm what they call inattentive ADHD. You have combined, and then there's also hyperactive, so there's the three. So inattentive presents itself a little bit differently, where you're not like bouncing off the walls, but like your brain is still going like 1,000 times a minute. So being able to, you know, have the diagnosis come through was like really beneficial, and now I know exactly like what's happening and what I'm dealing with, and it basically kind of confirmed what I was suspecting anyways was going on. So, yeah, I got that through. It's fantastic. And now we are on...
The doctor upped me. Upped me?
He upped the dose to 10.
That's what I was saying. It never really lasted, though, for me. Like, also the transition of, like, I was, like, a little bit weird for, like, 4 days every time. So, like, every time they upped my dose, it took, like, 4 days for, like, me to metabolize it, kind of thing. So I tried 10... I tried 15, and then I tried 20 milligrams, and 20 milligrams was like the spot. Now, at the beginning of 20 milligrams, not so much. It was like another 4 or 5 days. Poor T has had to deal with me self-discovering myself and dealing with all of my meltdowns and all of like everything that happens, all of my freakouts, all of my
Another day in the life.
What other things? Like, you explain, because it's from your perspective too.
Yeah, I mean, I think when like you were going through your cycles of medication,
yes,
you tended to take longer for the actual effects to level out. So it took about 4 days for you to figure out if it was going to work for you or not. So what we were noticing is like in those intermittent times of like testing it, you would be like very, very like emotionally heightened. You would be sensitive. You would go through crashes that would happen quite often. So like, as an example, you would take the 20 and then like, I think it lasted for about 4 hours and then you would crash or, earlier on it would cause you to become overstimulated more easily, like after the effects wore off. There was quite a few effects, mostly to do with like mood, I would say. So it did level out, but it's definitely like an awkward first like few days for sure until you adjust to the medication that you're on. So I was a lot more straightforward. Like I didn't have a lot of the side effects, and again I think a lot of it was just because like I don't have autism, so I didn't have that other side combating it. I just noticed that nothing was really effective until 2020 hit, and like it was kind of effective. So like when I was in the process of like taking the 20,
yes,
I noticed that there was definitely like a significant difference in how I was able to do things. It was a lot easier to do things, and I was struggling because one of the things that is really difficult is that I run a business and I have to wear multiple hats in the business where like I'm doing office work and then I'm doing floor work and I'm trying to organize things, and I had like sticky notes like all over the place, all over my business, just so that I could like, try and like self-manage and remember and do things that were really like important. So or else I would forget. So again, not great to have, those kinds of things and then also be a business owner. So it definitely, when I ended up taking the 20, I noticed definitely a significant improvement in it. It just didn't last all day. It kind of lasted again for a shorter amount of time. Yeah. But it was noticeably different in it. It definitely made like a noticeable improvement to the amount of things that I could focus on, attend to, and get done in a day without like forgetting. I could prioritize my life a little bit easier. So,
yeah. Okay, so why don't you tell people what you experience or struggle with as an inattentive ADHD or ADD, sorry.
Looking back and when I was in school, what I tended to notice was that it was very difficult for me to, I could sit still, but I couldn't remember things because my brain was constantly distracted. I was, wanting to listen to music or talk to people or do other things that wasn't, or I would try and focus, but then my focus would shift, or I wouldn't remember concepts because I couldn't connect things like properly in my head because my head had a really hard time putting things. That's why math was very difficult for me, trying to remember like formulas and stuff for math, because I would get the formulas like mixed up or confused or, a whole bunch of number things.
I'm like, if I can share some of the things I noticed, like, for example, he would leave the house and he'd leave the door open. I'm like, wouldn't close it. Like, his brain would just be like, he wouldn't remember to, like, shut the door, as an example, right?
Yeah, I would
or, like,
definitely do that.
Brain fog. He doesn't have a lot of, like, short-term memory.
Right? Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the struggles, was being able to like articulate things well. So like I always thought it was so funny because like I went through school knowing that I was different, but not knowing why I was different, just knowing that like there was something that just wasn't quite right. And of course, when I was a kid and I was going through school, there wasn't a whole lot of like research done on ADHD either. It was usually, something that was more obvious and only really diagnosed as hyperactive at the time, where kids were like bouncing off the wall and doing all these things. And I wasn't like that. And I didn't present like that. So like, I definitely got missed for a long time. And, looking back now, if like I had medication, like it would have made things a lot easier. I would have been able to focus a lot better in school. I would have been able to, prioritize different things when it came to like, my learning and, really being able to, take control of my life a lot easier, because it felt almost impossible. Like I was hitting a brick wall half the time. I remember trying to study for some final exams, and like I I literally sat down, I had everything in front of me, I got it open, and then like I ended up trying to do something for 20 minutes and then like doodling on my paper, and then 3 hours went by and that was it. And I was like, okay, we're not ready for this final exam right now. So yeah, no, it's I wish I had had it done sooner, but again, it wasn't the case, and that's just how it is. So
but I feel like, you're never too old to start self-discovery. And I feel like, we're on a self-discovery journey together, which is super cool. Like, to have a partner in this that's also finding themselves. And like, one thing that I have always felt is I've always wanted to be the best version of myself. Like, I've always wanted to be authentically happy, and I always like strive for that. And it doesn't matter like what that entails, as in like, if that means quitting my job and doing what I love or what makes me happy, I'll do it. Like, I have no qualms about that, because I've seen like other people be miserable, and I've never wanted to like hate my job. I've never wanted to like just like have it be a paycheck. Like, it's always been a very important thing to me to live life to the fullest and be your full self. And I feel like with this diagnosis for both of us, like, we're able to do that.
It's a lot easier to definitely get things done, and it's a lot easier to really move forward and feel productive, and not feel like, you get distracted and you've just wasted a day.
And also, I think it's a lot of like, when it comes to like self-acceptance, for you and for me. Like, I always thought I was really lazy, even though like I own a business. I've always felt so co-own a business. Actually, I have a business partner, bestie. But she's like, I'm in a cameo. He told me I smelled or something, and I was like, oh, I'll like show you out more. Sorry. Anyway, where was I? I was distracted.
You were talking about ADHD, and I think you were trying. I don't actually know where you were going with it.
Oh no. Where was I? What was I saying?
I'm not sure.
Baby, you always know what I'm saying.
I know.
What do you mean you're not sure? This is what I rely on. Okay, hang on. I said something about like being your true, authentic self, right? And I feel like no, that's not what it was. Shit, what was it? Help!
I don't remember what you were talking about.
Baby. Oh, laziness. I've always felt super lazy, and it didn't matter. Like, I'm always so tired. I always, like, whenever someone asks me to do something, I'm like, can you go do it? Like, I don't want to. But now with, like, this medication, I'm definitely more like, okay, like, we got gardening to do. Let's go out there and do some gardening. And, like, I actually realized that I'm not lazy. I actually am a very productive person, and I love like being that person and being productive and not having all those extra things in my brain being like, oh, like, this is going to be a lot of work. I'm sure you want to do this. Like, this is going to be exhausting. Like, this have to be done before you can do that. Like, it's just so nice to have that shut off and just be like, all right, we're going to go do that.
Yeah, like, I think for me, like, I always used to feel really guilty that I couldn't do things.
Yes.
And like, or that like, I felt like it was a choice. Like, I felt like I was choosing, or people were telling me on the outside anyways, oh, well, you just didn't choose to do this, or you didn't choose to do that. And then like coming to the realization that it's actually really not a choice almost. It's just that like you're wired so differently.
Yeah.
And I used to feel a lot of guilt around that, because I felt like I was disappointing people, or like not living up to their expectations, or that I was just not contributing. And it's definitely it. Again, I think the best thing about it is that it's like clarity. It's like you now know why. It's like I no longer have to wonder like why I am the way I am. I just understand now that, okay, well, like, it's because of this, and I don't use it as an excuse. I just say, okay, well, now I know why, if this is really, really hard. And now I know, what I can do to, help tailor it around, or, strategies that I can use to help. So,
you know what? Fuck it. If you want to use it as an excuse, that's your right. Your brain is wired differently. You know what? Like, you don't have to deal with things that other people have to, like, I mean, you have to deal with things, that other people don't have to deal with. It's not an excuse, but it's literally the truth. So I think if you know what? If we get that one positive thing that comes out of a diagnosis is like, you can use it as an excuse sometimes, fuck it. I say you can use it. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, like,
self-acceptance, babe. It's
not that I disagree, but I think just the more clarity you have on the subject and the more you understand about it, like, the easier it is for sure. And if I had known this when I was in high school, as an example, like, I probably would have had a lot more grace for myself. And I probably would have been like, okay, well, like, if I was struggling or not feeling like I could keep up or do other things, like, at least I would have had a reason as to, like, why.
That is a topic for another time.
Yeah, that is for sure.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
So I hope that this resonated with some of you, and we'd love to hear your ideas. I really want to spread awareness. I think that it is so important that parents are aware, and like that I speak up as an advocate for autism, but also like ADHD meds. And the reason why is because I feel like a lot of children may have autism and ADHD, like they're quite common to have together, and they may take ADHD meds, and then that medication could make more autism, but like their autism come out more. That's what I feel like. I feel like it spikes it almost. And if that is the case, then they could go to the doctor and be like, well, they're really anxious, or they're really like, they're always like going back and forth, or stimming a lot. And then a doctor could like diagnose wrong and maybe be like, oh, that child has anxiety. And then they start taking anxiety meds when they actually don't have anxiety at all. It could just be autism. So I think it's super important to share like my journey and how it affected me, because I can't imagine being a child, because a child is not able to express that to you. So you as a parent have to look at that and go like, okay, like, he wasn't doing this on this ADHD med, but now all of a sudden they are like doing this or this or this, and now they're diagnosed with anxiety or depression or OCD, like whatever it is. Just understand that if they are taking medication and that happens, or it gets heightened, because a lot of the things before I was taking ADHD meds, was I doing them before? Like very rare.
Yeah, rarely. Yeah, I would say rarely.
So, and now it's like, oh yeah, it's a lot more prevalent. Like you can tell the social anxiety, and we'll get into that another time.
Yeah, for sure.
But that's why I think that this podcast is so important, and it's not just for autistic people. It's not just for ADHD people. It's not just for couples or neurodivergent couples. It can be for parents that want some information on these topics. It could be for
experience what it's like, or anything.
Yeah,
so
it could be anyone.
Yeah, but thank you guys very much for tuning in today. We're gonna wrap it there, but if you really liked what we did and you enjoyed hearing us, then please drop us a like, comment, subscribe would be amazing.
Please subscribe. That'd be great.
Yeah, we keep a very tight community, so if you guys drop comments, we're always down in the comments. We'll answer you, or and we love talking to you guys. So.
I have had people DM me privately, and I've chatted with a couple, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's really sweet. It means a lot. So thank you guys very much for tuning in.
And
T&Kay out.